Thank you for joining me today. My name is Lee. Thank you for coming to my channel, Life as a Gemini Goddess. I know it's been a while since I made a video. I just been so busy. I have 2 other channels. One I'm getting back on, another one I started. Life has just been lifing. It's just been a lot of things going on. So I had a great 2023 year. I hope you guys did as well, because that's how long it's been since I made a video. And this is March 2023. March 2024. Anyway, so today this is a video that I've been wanting to do for a long time. It just kind of took me a while to do this video, and it's the same thing when I did the video about, my experience being a Jehovah's Witness, and, the dynamic of the relationship of my mom and myself and my brother, myself and whatever. So that's another video. It took me a long time to really talk about that video or talk about that topic. It was on my mind, and I just wanted to share my experience on that with other people. Just like today, well, you see in the title, just like today, I've been wanting to talk about this, but I wasn't sure. Like, not a lot of people know that I went through this experience. So, I've always been a very private person. And I'm an introvert and I'm an extrovert, because I'm a Gemini, so I'm both. Sometimes I want to be by myself, and sometimes, but when I'm around people, I don't act like I'm an introvert. So there's something to say this. There's some things that I wasn't really comfortable sharing and didn't know if I want to share that. But I know that my story, or not just what I've been through, I know it can help someone else. I know it can help someone else, and letting you know that life does get better after being in a domestic violence situation or relationship. Life can be better. Your life really, truly is what you make it. And I know that sounds cliche. I know that sounds law of attraction-ish, but it's not. It really is. It's real. It's real. Your life truly is what you make it. Okay, so if you didn't see my video where I said I grew up being a Jehovah's Witness, anyone who knows anyone who's a Jehovah's Witness or who's been one, pretty much the upbringing. I was brought up in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s. So, I'm 50, so I was brought up in that time period. So life was a little bit different. Parenting was a lot different. You didn't call CPS, because somebody because you got your ass spanked because your mama whooped your ass. We wasn't calling CPS and shit like that. I'm just saying that the discipline was a lot different back then. So my background is I grew up very strict. Okay, so very strict backgrounds, and I didn't grow up in a 2-parent household. My mom was a single mother. There was never any other man or male energy in the house. And me and my little brother, he's 8 years younger than me. So my mom brought us up in a single parent household. So I didn't see what it was like to be in other relationships or anything like that. I didn't know the dynamics. I wasn't even around other friends who had fathers, because with my mom, if she's associating with one of her friends, obviously they're Jehovah's Witnesses too, because they can only be with each other, or socialize with each other. They typically were, single moms as well. Most of the time they were single moms as well, because, these are 2 women in a congregation, talking, they're developing, having a relationship. So I never seen a relationship between a man and a woman as far as a mother and a father in a household. So with that being said, I was naive about a lot of things, like just really naive about that. Even with my grandmother, I think I didn't see her with, she the last time she was married, I was like really, really, really young. This is when we still lived in New York, so I probably was like 6, 7 years old. But after that, I only seen women in the household. So going out and being about and leaving starting to, like boys and want to be out. And when I turned about 19, 20 or whatever, And like I didn't have my first kiss till I was like I think 20. I didn't give up the coochie for the first time, because I don't like to say lost my virginity, because I didn't lose it. Unless somebody took it from you, it was lost. I gave it up willingly, okay, when I was 20 years old. All right, so that's where we're gonna start the story from there. The first person who I was with, who I experienced domestic violence. Man, this goes back so long. It's been 20. Well, let's say 1993. This is 2023. Okay, so it's been a long, 30? This is 2024. So what is that? 30 years or whatever? Yeah, because my daughter's going to be 30 this year. And all in 1 year, in 1993, I moved out of my mom's house when I was 20. I turned 21 that year. I moved out into my own apartment, but I asked my boyfriend at the time, if he wanted to come live with me, because I was stupid as hell. So I'm like, oh, you want to live with me and this and that, because I was dumb. I didn't know no better. I wanted to get out of my mom's house. I didn't want to be no Jehovah's Witness anymore. Me and my mom was arguing, fighting all the time. It had nothing to do with me liking other boys. It's just that was the dynamic of our relationship. So I just wanted to just get out of there. And I was already paying part of the bills in my mom's house anyway. So when I was at work one day, I'm like, oh, all the money that I put out with my mom, living at her house, because I was working. I've been working since 16. So when I'm working, I'm like, damn, I can go get my own apartment. I don't got to deal with this shit. So got my own apartment, asked him if you want to live with me. By this time, when I moved out, I had already had sex with my first boyfriend. Okay, this is my first boyfriend, my first real boyfriend. And so I had sex one time, and I'm like, I didn't want to be sneaking around. So I got that's another reason why I got my own place. We're arguing, me and my mom got out. Before moving out though, I seen him, his sister worked at my job and everything, and I was like, oh, he's cute, and he was driving his own car and this and that. He was cute. And I was like, I wasn't trying to get with him, but he came in there, hollering at me and everything. And, I was like, okay, so boom, bam. Let's fast forward a little bit. We start, I was sneaking, and I'm 20 and I'm saying I'm sneaking, but anyway, I'm sneaking, to go meet him here and there. And then, I remember I got chicken pox, right? So I had caught chicken pox also in 1993. Same year, all this other shit. So I caught chicken pox, and I was still living at my mom's house. This is before I moved out. I was living at my mom's house. And so I didn't see him for a couple of weeks. And then by the time I got back to work, I guess, and I, got back to work after, chicken pox and stuff healed or whatever. I was just like, by that time, I had already been kind of talking to him for a few months, and I knew he was talking to this one other chick, but he said he wasn't with her no more. And so anyway, so I was like, by this time, I did like him. So I was like, oh, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do this. So, we did it, whatever. Child, I should have waited, but I didn't know no better. Like I said, this is my first, so I should have waited. And so that's neither here nor there. So there were signs and red flags already, okay? Because he really wasn't no good nigga. I mean, he was like 2 years younger than me. I know he was a D-boy. I know he was, selling, but I didn't know none of these things. I was so naive. This is just in retrospect. I didn't know a lot of this shit. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have this type of shit around me. I just knew I liked him. I wanted to be with him. I'm grown, feeling like I'm grown. And one of the red flags, so he was still obviously sleeping with this other girl, and I found out. And he said, well, come to find out, he beat her up. Like, he beat her up, and she was in the hospital. And I forgot how I found out about that, but yeah, I found out about that. So anyway, fast forward, I still, after all that, and he was like, oh, he told me his story, his side of the story and all that shit, and which I believe whatever he was saying or whatever. So we get together and all that shit, right? We get together. Within the first couple of days, there's so much I'm leaving out of the story because I'm not trying to make it about every little thing that happened. I'm just telling you from the first experience to the last experience and where it all started with me with domestic violence. So I'm sorry if I'm pontificating or going on and on. It's just I'm trying to recollect a lot of these things, so I'm sorry about that. So anyway, he beat up the girl supposedly and all this. He moved in with me. There was other red flags. Bitches was calling the landline because I had no cell phone back then. Bitches calling the landline talking about where he at. They have his baby. He was just over there and all this shit. So I was like, But in between time, he did put his hands on me. I remember the first time he slapped me. He slapped the shit out of me. And, you know, I still stayed with him. You know, next time they talk about they love you and all that shit, he slapped the shit out of me. One time I was trying to go to work and I was late to work. So when I moved on my own, I specifically moved in this area because at the time I didn't have a car, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I just was taking the bus to my job and everything. So I moved somewhere where I know I can get on the bus line. But when he moved in, he had a car. So you leave the house at a certain time. So like sometimes he'll let me drive the car, and I'm sorry if this light is shining on me. I'm sorry. The sun is coming through. But at the time, you know, he'll take me to work or whatever, or I could take his car and he'll come pick up his car later or whatever. And he'll just make me late because we'll argue and then he'll put his hands on me. So of course that's going to make me run late for work. And then I remember like one time I was walking down the stairs. I don't even remember what happened, but I remember he hit me in my mouth. He took my purse, hit me in my mouth. And this is on the stairs because I lived in some apartments. I used to live upstairs. And he dragged me up the stairs. And I'm like, damn. And then I was late for work. And then my supervisors all like put me on probation because I'm being late. But I don't know. I can't tell this bitch, my boyfriend's putting his hands on me. And, you know, what am I going to do? Nobody was really knowing what was going on. So anyway, we only lived together for maybe a month. And then there was a whole bunch of shit that went on during that time, all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stories, but it was just like, I can't believe I'm going through this. And then I remember feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. Like, excuse me, I can't believe this is happening. Like I'm getting beat up. I'm sorry, my throat's getting a little dry. Okay, sorry. I had to calm down because sometimes I think of these things and it's like, of course you heal, but you still got those memories it's in your DNA. I mean, you can't get rid of it. You forget stuff, you forget details, but you just can't forget a lot of this shit. I'm sorry. Let me kind of go this way because it's hitting all this glass on my table. So, okay, so hopefully that's better. But yeah, so it's like, you know, you're like, I just can't believe it. I remember, I'll never forget like one night after he put his hand. Now at this point, he never beat me up. He just was slap me around. He never closed fist hit me in my face. I'm not excusing it. I'm just telling you how things progress. So, you know, he belittled me, said things to me. So I'm going through emotional abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, and I'm not really knowing what to do. You know, I don't know what to do. I'm fucking 20 years old. Who am I going to call? My mama? She ain't talking to me after I moved out. She, you know, if you see my previous video about that, you know, she ain't fucking talking to me. You know what I'm saying? So who am I going to tell? I don't want my grandma really knowing, but I think I did tell my grandmother. She lived in Florida at the time. So she moved from New York and retired in Florida. So me and my grandmother had a close relationship. So I told her, but you know, what can you do? And you know, people gonna give you advice, but are you listening? How many of us been in, excuse me, if you've been in an abusive relationship, you didn't listen a lot of times the first time. Okay. So and it wasn't about, I love him. It's just, I don't know. I don't really know what to do. Yeah, I have feelings for him. And this was my first boyfriend, my first experience. So I guess I did love him. Maybe I did. I guess I did. It's been so long ago. I can't deny it. I did love him. You know what I'm saying? But when they apologize and say they're sorry and you believe it, and it's like, wow, what am I going to do? So anyway, all this is happening, and I done confronted him about bitches calling and all this, and we getting fights. He putting his hands on me and all this happened, right? Okay. I finally kicked him out. I remember I kicked him out before my 21st birthday, like I never forget, it was June 5th, 1993. I kicked this nigga out. I was like, you got to get out my apartment, right? You got to move out. My name was on the lease. So I've never ever lived with someone or my boyfriends and my name was on the lease, with the exception of my last relationship before me getting married, which I'll get to. But that was a different situation. But anyway, yeah, my name was on the lease. So I told this nigga to get out. So I remember so the day, okay, so when I told him to move out, like an incident happened. I worked at a retail store, right? So an incident happened in the store where some people stole some shit or whatever. And we had this guy who was a security officer, right? This black dude who was a security officer. So anyway, me and him would talk, whatever. He made me laugh and all this and this and that. But it wasn't really, it wasn't even like really my type, because yeah, I know if you've seen any of my previous videos, I dated black men in the past, but I've always been attracted to white men. But geographically where I was, they weren't around. So I always dated like light-skinned guys and stuff like that, but whatever. Anyway, so this other dude, he was dark, he was short, he really wasn't my type. But anyway, we became friends. He gave me his number or whatever, and I put it in my pocket, right? So I put it in my pocket, and I'm sure I hung my clothes up. I probably didn't take it out of my pocket or whatever. I don't know how my boyfriend, who I was telling to get out, how he found this in my pocket. I don't know. But so that day when I was telling him to move out, I had to work. So I said, while I'm gone, leave my key and just move your shit out. So it wasn't like we had a big blow up where I thought anything was going to happen, but I was like, just leave my key, come up to the job, leave my key or whatever, and just move your shit out, right? So, because I didn't have no furniture, he had some furniture, whatever. So when he moved out, I really had nothing. I had a few items. I had like a stereo. I had a couple of other little household items. I had pictures, art on the wall or whatever. So a few items. So anyway, I was like, have your shit out the house by the time I get home. And so he's like, all right, whatever. So I'm at work. He calls me and at my job, and like, who's this nigga? This nigga named Wooty Woo, name in your phone. I mean, in your on this that I found in your pocket. I said, found in your pocket. And I'm like, what? So I don't remember all the whole conversation, but he was mad, yelling at me on the phone or whatever. So I had to close that night, right? Because I was an assistant manager. So I had to close. And this girl, I didn't have a car, I remember. And so this girl that I work with, she said that she can give me a ride home. So she dropped me off. And when I pulled up to my apartment, I had a sick feeling in my stomach. Like after that conversation, I had a real sick feeling in my stomach the whole time. And I was like, damn, I can't wait to get off because I feel like something is going to go down. And I just didn't know what. So, excuse me. So I get home and it just didn't feel right. And so I get in there and my house was like my apartment was trash. Like the picture I had on the wall had glass in it. It was like hit up against something. It was trash. I had a little stereo because I was trying to build my credit before I even moved out. I remember getting a credit card from Sears, and I had bought a little stereo. It was a CD player with like the radio, and I remember I used to play SWV up in that shit, Mary J. Blige all the time and shit. Yeah. So anyway, so and that was all destroying some other stuff, and I was like, oh my God. And so I was scared. Like, is he gonna come back? And then I remember calling him at his mama's house. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do nothing. So I was like, okay, so he trashed my house. Let's fast forward. During that summer was a hot girl summer. Okay. I didn't have sex with nobody, but it was a hot girl summer. Okay. It was a hot girl summer. So, cause damn, by this point, I've only fucked him. Okay. He was my first. That's the only person. But when I say hot girl summer, I was dating, I was kicking it, and me and his sisters were friends. And that's why to this day I don't believe in being friends with your boyfriend's sister and shit. I don't know. It didn't work out for me. But anyway, them bitches. Anyway, so they knew a lot of what I was doing, so they probably reporting back to him, and they'll be like, oh well, Michael, I didn't mean to say his name, but he still, he's in jail or this happened. I'd be telling them, don't tell me what happened, because I don't be asking about him. I never once asked about him. I didn't give a fuck. Okay. So one day, After a few months, everything went down. I had got back, we didn't get back together, but we had sex. This is like 3-4 months after I kicked him out. This was April 8th, 1993. I mean, August 8th, 1993. I ain't gonna never forget that night. And I was like, we didn't get back together, but I had sex stupidly. And that's the same night I got pregnant with my daughter. So we didn't get back together or anything, but some stuff went on between that point through my pregnancy. He was never there, denied her, all this. He denied my daughter all the way till one day he called me when she was 14. I was like, oh, I believe you. He believed me at that time. He just was an asshole who had about 20 kids. I think he has about 20 kids. Anyway, all kinds of shit went down. Then I'll never forget the last time I dealt with him. Now, during the whole time we were together, there's a lot of the story that I'm leaving out. Like, I left California when I was first pregnant with my daughter, because I was trying to escape a situation. And it's like more detail about that, but this is just the beginnings, like I said, of where the abuse was. All during that whole, whatever, 6 weeks was together, month and a half, however long that was when I moved out and I told him to move in with me, I went through a lot of abuse. I was alone. I remember sitting there like, I want to kill this motherfucker, but I don't want to go to jail. I wanted to kill him. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, oh my God. So it's just a whole bunch of shit. So all that, and I still slept with him like a dumbass. I still slept with him. Yes, I was stupid. Okay, slept with him. Fast forward a few months after I had my daughter, all that came back. It's just so much. It's like, it's just so much. Anyway, I'm hoping y'all keeping up. Please bear with me. Okay, please bear with me. We all have our story. We all have our journeys. So he, my daughter was 3 months old, and he only came over a couple of times. Like, he never bought her no Pampers, never nothing like that. But one time he came and picked her up and took her to his family house and all this and that. And, he did that or whatever, like, her first few months of being on this earth, her first few months of life. I remember she was 3 months old, and I remember this particular day. Now, I want to also say that during this time, like I said, I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and during this time, I felt lost, and I was like, I need to get back to being a Jehovah's Witness, because my life is in shambles right now. Like, I'm having a child. I just moved out of my mama's house last year. I've been through all this shit and other stuff that went on. There's a whole lot of things that happened in my life just in 1993. Beside him, just so much happened. It's like, I need to get back to being a Jehovah's Witness. So right around my daughter was a few months old, I started going back to the Kingdom Hall and all that, and trying to go back to being a Jehovah's Witness and stuff. And so I wouldn't sleep with him, obviously, because he tried to come over, and I'm like, I can't sleep with you. I'm trying to repent and all that stuff. So one night after I came back from the Kingdom Hall, I remember my friend, she dropped me off, and me and my daughter, my daughter sleeps. She had her own crib. I had a 1-bedroom apartment. She has her own crib, but she always slept in the bed with me because it was just me and her. I lived by myself with me and my daughter, and so I breastfeed her. So it's just easier for her just to lay in the bed with me, during the night or whatever. And so this one night he was like, oh, I'm about to come. He called me, I guess from his cell phone. And he called me. He was like, oh, I'm about to come over real quick. I want to see my daughter. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, is to me, late is probably 10 o'clock back then, even though late ain't like that now, but late, it was probably 10 because it wasn't like too long after I got back from the Kingdom Hall. So he knew I was going back to the Kingdom Hall, because I want to also say that he wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, but his mama was and his sisters were. So he knew about me going to the Kingdom Hall. He knew I ain't fucking around and doing stuff like that. Right? So he came over, I opened the door, whatever, and my daughter's laying in the bed, sleep. So I'm like, okay, what's up? You want to see your daughter or whatever? And I'm stupid, right? So anyway, he starts like looking in my closets and looking in my tub, like pulling shower curtains back, looking in my closet in the bedroom. And then he was like, oh, you have some other nigga up in here or whatever. Woo-woo. And I was like, excuse me, where the fuck is this coming from? where the fuck is this coming from? Like, you coming all over here. I didn't say fuck because I wasn't cursing, but what are you doing? Like, and then he just started hitting me. He started hitting me. He started pounding me. He started hitting me. And all I can think of is my daughter's laying in the bed. I'm like, why are you doing this in front of my daughter? And he drugged me in the living room. He just started hitting me. And I was thinking, I'm just in my mind like, please, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this. And I didn't feel it. Like, he was hitting me, but I didn't feel the blows. I was just like I just either zoned out and I just wanted to be taken away from that. I felt every other slap I've ever had, he ever gave me, I felt, but I didn't feel those blows. And this is the first time he actually beat me up. He actually beat me up. Next day, I mean, I was so sore, but when it happened, I didn't feel it. So after that happened, I'm screaming and everything, telling him to stop. And he was like, I'm going to go downstairs and get my gun. Because I guess some bitch, I lived upstairs at the time. I guess some bitch brought him by or whatever. And I'm like, did this bitch not know anyway, that's another whole story. But I'm like, okay, I'm getting on the phone, calling the cops and everything. And cops came, I gave my story. They took their pictures. I did call the cops. That's the first time I ever called the cops. Okay. During the other times when he beat me up, I didn't, or he put his hands on me. Like I said, this is the first time and only time he beat me up. This is when my daughter was 3 months old. I'll never forget this day. And, so later on, and then, the cop took my story and all this, or took my statement or whatever. I had a court date in the future or whatever. I was like, I didn't know if I want to press charges because I didn't know if he was going to come back and kill me or anything like that. So I don't know how it is in other states, but I know here in California, even in the 90s, the DA picks up the case, whether or not you drop the case or not, they pick up the case. So I ended up having to go to court over that. His mom, I'll never forget his mom, who was a bitch. Yeah, I said somebody else's mom was a bitch. She gonna call me and tell me that she know her son be abusing women. I'm not the first, and I wasn't the last one to get abused. Okay, so I find out all kinds of shit that he done did with other women, all stuff that he done put his hands on, all the shit that it's just disgusting, degenerate. And so his mom was like, she's looking at the police report. There was some things on the report that I didn't say, and I don't know where they got some of the wording. And I'm like, I don't know. But his mom was saying that I lied and that he didn't come put his hands on me and that I need to drop the charges and all. I'm like, wow, this is your son, and your son is an abuser, and this is okay. So anyway, that's why I didn't like her. I had nothing to say to her. So anyway, that was pretty much the last time that I dealt with him and he put his hands on me, right? My first relationship. You fast forward and then I get with the second person. So the first person was my daughter's father, okay? Second person ended up being what was my son's father. So we got together, we were friends first, kicked it, all that. Then the abuse started. The abuse started. I remember we were fighting, but we fought each other. Like, by this time, I'm fighting back sometimes when I'm able to, because this is a bigger man. But I'll never forget, like, I remember one time I smashed him in his fucking head with a frying pan. And that motherfucker still got hit him twice, too. And I just poured the grease out. It wasn't hot. I just poured the grease. This is when, this is back in the day where you fry something and you too lazy to put to empty the grease, or you're going to use the grease again. So you put the whole pot or the skillet. I said pot. You could be using a pot or skillet, and you put it back in the oven. Well, I remember he came home drunk or whatever, and he put his hands on me. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck this shit. This is the last motherfucking time he gonna put his hands on me. So I went and I'm like, whatever happens, happens. And at the time, my daughter wasn't there. Okay. At the time, my daughter was not. She was a few years old, but she wasn't at the house at that time. So this is just before I got pregnant with my son and everything. And so anyway, I remember he was asleep on the couch, and I took the grease. I took the pan and I took the grease out. I put the grease out the pan. I rinsed it out. And then I opened the front door. I said, I know that after I hit this motherfucker in his head, I'm gonna have to run, right? So we lived in apartments. By this time, I lived in the same apartments, but I moved downstairs. So I was living downstairs, and we lived on a busy street. And across the street was a shopping center. It had like a Del Taco, a Target, and all that. So that was across the street. Excuse me. So I remember I had my purse. I unlocked the door and opened it because that was the living room, and the couch was, so there's the door and the couch was like right here. So I opened the door because I knew I was going to have to run. And I took the pan and I hit him in his head, and then he still moved. And then I hit him in his head again, and this motherfucker still got up. I was like, damn, I must have hit him harder, because I know I hit him hard because the frying pan was dented in all the way in, okay? A whole dent. So I'm running across the street and he's running after me and everything. And I remember I'm running. I was like, I don't know where I'm running to, but I'm just running and running and running. I'm like, I'm going to outrun him. But he was 6'4". He a black man. Of course, he can run fast. I'm running. And then finally he just stopped or whatever. And so I didn't go back home. I went to my friend's house after that for a few days or whatever. And because he hit me and I did what I did. That's why I be understanding when women, you know, see, that's why the prison system has a lot of women in there who's been abused, who have been through some shit. And it's like, you know, you try to defend yourself and it's like, you never know, like something could have went way wrong and I could be sitting in the jail cell. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, but during this whole relationship, we was together for, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 years. I ended up having a baby. Obviously, I stayed stupidly in this relationship. He constantly was putting his hands on me. He constantly was slapping me around. Then he started doing drugs. I was so naive. I didn't even know that he was doing drugs. He started doing fucking drugs. He admitted to doing crack. You know, there's a whole lot of story in between there. When I found the crack pipe, I was like, what is this? I didn't know what the fuck the shit was in there. I'm like, he's snorting something or smoking something. I'm like, I can't believe this shit. You know what I'm saying? But I stayed. When I had my son, I stayed in that relationship. He was cheating on me. If you ever saw my previous video where I talked about that I caught him cheating or something like that, story time or whatever. It's been so many times that this man was cheating on me and abusing me, and all I could just think of is just like, damn, I want to get out the relationship because I'd be sitting there like, I hate him. I just wish he'd get out of my life. I just wish I'd tell the universe or whatever I believed in at the time. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I just want him gone out of my life. But then, you know, I'm like, damn, I got a son now and I don't want my son. Although I should be thinking of my daughter is seeing me go through this, okay? My child and my children are seeing me, because he was still a baby. But if I keep being with this man, he's going to keep putting his hands on me. He's going to keep putting his hands on me, you know? You know, that he's just going to keep putting his hands on me if I continue to stay in this situation. But then the other side of me is like, damn, you know, I didn't want my son or another child growing up in a household with, you know, without their fathers. Like, that was more important to me. I felt that was more important. It's like, no, it's like, I'm just going to have to keep putting up with this shit, because it's like, I don't want another statistic, my child's growing up in a household, or my son's growing up in a household without his father. And then it's like, you know what, after a while I start wisening up. I'm like, fuck this shit, I'm tired going through this. I be at work dreading going home. I be sitting there like, oh my God, we're gonna get into it about something. And it was just always something. Then he was in and out of fucking jail, and then I'm visiting him at the jail, and running up my fucking phone bill, you know what I'm saying? Because this motherfucker got to call me, you know, in from jail and everything. And I'm accepting the phone calls, and he's catching cases and shit. And I'm still there, and I'm bringing my kids down to the visiting to go visit his ass. It's like a vicious cycle that was toxic. It was toxic. It was because I was first attracted to him because I'm like, oh, he was cute, light-skinned dude. You know, they was in the 90s. Light-skinned niggas was in the 90s. It's like, he cute and this and that. You know, being stupid, just giving up the pussy, just giving up that energy. Once you give that shit up to a motherfucker, and then you with a motherfucker who he's spreading his seed all around, getting extra energy from other women. Because every time they sleeping with somebody, whether it's they could be bringing home diseases. Luckily, I ain't never got anything like STD or anything from them. But it's like, you still have to deal with that energy from another woman, because anytime you sleep with somebody, there is energy there. That's why motherfuckers be, you give them the pussy one time or you give them the dick one time, they following you, they stalking you and shit. Because sometime once you start doing that, or people get confused, you break up with somebody and it's like you give them the pussy, then they confused. It's like, because that's energy. Okay, so all this energy, convoluted energy that's coming in the house and all this negativity, it just started wearing down on me. And I was like, you know what? I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of this nigga cheating on me. I'm sick of him always in and out of jail. And then, like, the only reason why I didn't leave, like with the first one, I was just scared. I didn't know what to do. And then not only with my being in, I want to make something clear, okay? I want to make something crystal clear. When I said that I wanted to stay in a relationship with my son's father because I didn't want to break up the relationship, as far as I wanted him to have a father in the household, it was also because he also used to threaten me. Okay, there was times where he would threaten me to have sex with him. He's like, I'm gonna tear your shit up if you don't have sex with me. He would do shit like that. He didn't care at the time if I was pregnant. He didn't care what I was going through emotionally, physically. He didn't care what was going on with me. If I didn't give it to him when he wanted to give it to me, he'll fuck my shit up. He'll break my shit. He'll act a fool. He'll throw my clothes around. He do all kinds of shit like that. Okay. And then gaslight me and tell me how much, oh, you know, I love you. You know, this is the reason why I did this. You know, gaslighting a motherfucker, because they're narcissists. Okay. They're all about themselves. Okay. Now, they're all about themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I was with him for so long. And then finally, well, before that even happened, it's so much shit that I went through with him. So many things that I went with. I was with this man for quite a few years. He put his hands on me while I was pregnant with his son. He didn't care when he put his hands on me. He didn't fucking care at all. Stop it. He didn't care at all. Okay. And I took it. I dealt with it. And then I remember I got a new car, and I remember him saying that, well, if you leave me, I'm going to blow up the car and this and that. So he'll make threats. And what can you do? It's like, well, if he does that, or if I leave, he's going to do this, or if I leave, he's going to do that. I know that there's women out there who is going through worse than what I went through, and they can't leave. I knew for me to be able to get out this relationship safely, I knew he had to go to jail. I was like, the next time he goes to jail, because every time he go to jail, I'm like, you know what? I can just leave him now. And I didn't do it till I guess I got sick and tired. You know when they say you got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired? Well, I was fucking sick and tired. And by this time, I was like, I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of this. My kids are seeing this. I don't want my son growing up seeing his mom getting abused, and then that whole cycle start to fuck all over again. Okay. Not knowing how a woman is supposed to be treated. Okay. So one day I remember I was like, all the time I'm thinking, I'd be like, oh my God, I just wish that he just go to jail. And during this time he did catch a case, but I didn't know how it was going to unfold. Okay. Here's the story. Here's how it all went down. Okay. Let me move this over because I know that light, these circles. Okay. Hope you can see me good. Okay. So anyway, I knew that he had to go to jail. That's probably the only way I was going to be rid of him. So one day I got home from work early. I just picked up the kids from daycare. I didn't tell him. I don't tell him I'm on my way home. I just happened to come home from work early. Right. So I lived in these apartment complexes and, or complexes, whatever. And so I was coming around the corner. We lived upstairs. I'm coming around the corner. And as I turn the corner, I see this nigga talking to some other bitch, right? So I was like, and it's not so much that I'm jealous. I'm just like, one, this motherfucker's supposed to be at work, okay? He barely helped with the bills, right? He barely helps with any fucking bills. Nigga didn't help pay no bills until we get a yellow or red notice saying that they're gonna cut our shit off. Oh, I'll give you some money. But that was my fault. Anyway, so I see him talking. I'm like, you, for one, he's supposed to be at work, and he talking to some other bitch at my apartment or at these apartment complexes where we live. Okay, so anyway, I went over there. I was like, what the fuck you doing out here? You supposed to be at work, and you out here talking to some other bitch. And he kept saying he was gonna stop drinking. And I'm like, and I see you drinking. You know what I'm saying? Because he was an alcoholic. He was alcoholic and a drug and someone who and a drug addict after a while. Even fast forward, he is still a drug addict and homeless and live under bridges and stuff. Anyway, I wish him well. But anyway, getting back to this, so I was like, yeah, I can't believe this is happening. So by this time, you know, you fed up, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I was like, I told the kids, get in the car. And I remember, I'm like, I'm fucking sick of his shit. We get into it, and I just went downstairs, and I had a cell phone at this time. So I remember going downstairs, excuse me. I told the kids to get in the car, and I was just going to drive down to the park, right? I'm like, I'm going to drive down to the park. My kids were, I forgot how old they were, but they were old enough. I sat in the car watching them. I'm watching them, and my daughter is older than my son, so she's watching her little brother, but they're at the park right there in front of me, but I'm sitting in the car. And I remember I was rolling up a blunt. I'm like, I'm so fucking mad right now. I don't know what to do. I was angry. And all I kept saying is like, I was just like, universe, whatever at that time, don't matter, all the same. I was like, please take this man from out of my life. I promise I'll never look back. Please take him from out of my life. And I remember rolling up that blunt, and I was smoking it, and I'm watching my kids out there, and I'm thinking that they don't deserve to see me go through this fucking shit. You can judge me for smoking a blunt in the car. I don't fucking care. But anyway, I'm smoking a blunt in a car. Who give a fuck? So I'm just like, oh my God. Please take him out of my life. Something made me call the house, and I don't know why. I picked up my cell phone, I think because I wanted to curse him out or something, but something made me call. So I picked up my cell phone, I called the house, and somebody else answered my phone. I said, who is this? They said, who is this? I said, you answered my fucking phone. I said, who is this? They was like, I said, this is, I gave him my government name. And it was like, I can hear him, this man, it sounded like a white dude, talking to my boyfriend. I can hear my boyfriend in the background saying, yeah, she's, she's my girlfriend or whatever. She's my girlfriend, whatever you're saying. That's so-and-so. They was like, oh, okay. And so all I remember is like, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I remember hanging up, or they hung up. I can't remember. And I didn't live that far. I was at the park. I didn't live that far. So it'd probably take me like 2 minutes to get to the house. And it's only because I had to cross one light. So I tell the kids to get in the car and everything. And then I'm driving to the house. As I'm driving to my apartment, and I'm about to pull into the apartments. And apartments be having the gates that, the gates open or whatever. A SUV was coming out. And I'm pulling in, and all I can hear is my boyfriend in the back of the SUV calling my name. And I was like, what the fuck? And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? So I'm scared. I'm thinking, oh my God. So anyway, come to find out, I didn't know what happened. Come to find out, because he had caught a case while he was already on parole, probation, whatever it was, who knows. And he caught a case, they came and picked him up. So they had a warrant, and they came to the house to pick him up. For one, I'm so glad, I wasn't there when it happened. Okay. 2, I just asked, powers that be, please take this man up out of my life. And it all happened. I mean, when you talk about the law of attraction, I didn't even know about the law of attraction. And that when I asked for something and I put my energy into that thing and I really meant it and I knew I was going to follow through, that it actually came to fruition. Oh my God. After that, it was like a lot happened and transpired after that happened, but I stopped taking the calls. I stopped visiting, or when he'd be like, "Oh, can you visit me?" Fuck that. When he calls, I'll let him talk to his son, or he talks to my daughter because he knew her since she was like 3 years old. So I let him talk to the kids or whatever, and I'm like, you run up my phone bill. If he talked to me crazy, hanging up, because I still kept in contact only because I had his son. But other than that, I was so happy. There was no, you coming back home. At this time, I was fucking done. Okay. I had enough. And that was my go. That was like, there was so many steps that had to transpire for that day to happen. All the way to just how the story unfolded, because before then I already put it out there that I'm this time when I ask for help and I don't want him in my life, I know he's not. I want him out of my life forever. I want him out of my life, and things had to transpire because for him to get that warrant, other things unfolded. Like I lost a whole car because of this, not because of him, but it's a long story. But it's like that happened. A whole bunch of other stuff happens. So when you ask for something, you never know how you're going to get that something. And you never know how things have to transpire and transpose for these things to work in your life. Okay. You never know what has to be moved. And some things are uncomfortable for it to have to be moved out your life. So I say that to say this is that if you're in an abusive situation and you really don't want to be in that situation and you safely can get out of it, or whatever steps, however it looks in your life, and you're able to get out of this situation, do it. You have to be sure you're not sending the mixed signals either. No getting back with the ex. And once you leave, there's no getting back with the exes. There's no sleeping with them one more time. And don't stay with somebody just for the fucking sake of the kids. That's the wrong fucking thing to do, because your kids are going to see you getting your ass whooped, getting disrespected. Okay. They're going to grow up thinking that it's okay for a man to treat you like that, or it's okay for him to put his hands on another woman. Okay. To this day, my son is 25. He about to be 26 in May. Okay. He is a good man. Okay. He ain't never put his hands on no woman. Okay. I had to teach him the rest of the way. I couldn't teach him. Shut up. I couldn't teach. Stop it. No. I couldn't teach him how to be a man, but I can teach him how a woman should be treated. Okay. So, there's that. But then let's go ahead and fast forward. I know this video is long enough, but let's go ahead and fast forward to relationship number 3. Okay. Before I found my happiness, I was in that relationship for almost 11 years. He didn't put his hands on me, but he was emotionally and mentally abusive. I'm not going to go into the whole story about that because it's a long story. I mean, we started off as friends. I didn't see the red flags. I took a lot of shit from this guy. He was very mentally abusive. I finally broke up with him. A whole bunch transpired during those 11 years, but I got tired of, he never put his hands on me. So I didn't realize that of the abuse. I didn't see the narcissism. I didn't see the gaslighting. I didn't see none of this shit because I'm like, he ain't putting his hands on me, but he's also not treating me like a valuable woman. But I also was attracting the same type of man because I like a certain type of man and looks at that time. I also was attracting the same type of man that was abusive, whether in the beginning it was them putting their hands on me, but being abused emotionally and mentally is devastating. It's just as devastating. It just doesn't have any fucking wounds that other people can see on the outside. But I was very unhappy. Went into a depression. I wanted to commit suicide. It was so many things that went on, and I was finally like, I'm not taking this shit anymore. I'm not taking it anymore. And finally, I was like, when I start realizing I deserve better, by a certain point, I started learning about the law of attraction and learning about different things in my life and what I wanted to do to create my life to be what I want it to be. And I couldn't see it because sometimes we don't think we deserve better. So we keep attracting the same type of man. When a woman's like, I keep attracting the same loser, I keep attracting the same asshole. It's because you're putting it out there. You're not changing anything about yourself. Okay. I did the work. The reason why I have no baggage now, why I'm able to date without like, oh my God, I have walls up, or I'm afraid to trust, I'm afraid to open, I'm afraid to love someone else. You know, you hear that with women, or you may be one of those women who like, I'm not, going to give anybody my heart. Well, why the fuck are you in a relationship? And then you want to talk about, oh, the dating pool is full of piss. It is, but what are you doing? What are you doing? What value you bring in when you find you a man, or you find something that, depending on what your situation is, if you want a high value man, if you want whatever you want in your life, if you want to get married or you want to have a committed relationship, but then you're not putting in the work. You want to find this good man who's loyal, who doesn't cheat on you, who has this or who has that, who got money, who don't got money, whatever you're trying to attract in your life, what you think is what you want, but yet you're not doing the work. Okay, it's like saying you got a dirty ass house, but you're like, oh, I want some brand new pretty ass furniture in my house. You tell them to move that pretty ass furniture in your house, but your shit looking like a hoarder's house. It's like, did you do the work by cleaning up? Did you do the work by cleaning up your life, cleaning up your mentals? I didn't go to therapy, okay? Some people go to therapy however it looks for you to heal. I healed. When I say I healed, yeah, it's still sometimes when I tell people my story, like when I really sit down and tell my story, like things I tell my husband about things that I've been through, it's like sometimes I get a little bit emotional. I start crying. It's not because I'm still sad. It's just sometimes I'm like, I can't believe that I allowed myself. I guess I didn't forgive myself. Sometimes I'm like, why did I do that? Until I figure that I am a woman who deserves better. Okay. Even though I had to learn all this on my own. Excuse me. But how I did the work, I did the work. That's how, whatever I did, it worked for me. Okay. It took time. It took me doing a lot of inner work and thinking about my heart and meditation and knowing what it feels like to feel good. And I had to go through my dating process. I had to date. I had to do things. I had to figure out what I wanted out of a man. I had to start over. When I stopped being in that relationship and I went online and, that's how I started dating. That's how I met my husband. Okay. We've been together, this year for 7 years. Later on this year, in the same month, we'll be married for, this our third anniversary? 2020. Oh my God, this is our fourth anniversary. We got married 2020. So, he ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. I love that man. He loves me. So, but anyway, it's like, but I did the work. And then I also, when I was dating, I made sure that I didn't go back out to the dating pool to date with intention. I went out and I started dating because that's how I figured out what I wanted, how I found out a lot about myself. I learned about myself when I was going through the serial dating process. I did all different types of men. I dated all different types of backgrounds, different nationalities, Asian, Indian. Well, Indian is technically Asian, but East Indian. I dated Mexican. I dated Italian. Polish. I did the things. Okay. So I did that. And that's when I wasn't dating with intention, because I was like, okay, I want to know what it's like to date different men. And then when I did my profile, I made sure what I put in my profile, on my dating profile, what I wanted. I'm going to go through all this in another video. Plus I'm also in the middle of writing my book about, my dating process and how a woman can find a high value man online, because there's people who saying you can't do that. But I say, before you even get into that process of getting online and dating, you have to do the work. You have to be sure you don't have no baggage. Motherfuckers ain't still calling you. Motherfuckers ain't still stalking you. They still not in your inbox. They ain't not in your DMs. They ain't still trying to come to your door all unexpected. They don't still got a key to your house. You still trying to get your ex back. You got to make sure that you cut that shit. And also too, you have to be sure you forgive them. And that's another thing I had to do. I had to tell myself I had to forgive each and every one of the ones that had done me the way that they did. I had to forgive them in my heart. Like, I have to forgive you. I can't hold no ill will. I don't hold any ill will for what happened between me and my daughter's father, my son's father, and my ex. And I just wish them all the best. That's all I can do. I wish them all the best. If I seen them in the street, Hey, get a nod, I speak, don't touch, I ain't trying to hug because I don't want to exchange that energy with you, but I hope your life is good, okay? Because when I came out that last relationship, that's a different story time. My ex, he gave me a lot of problems when I started dating my current situation, even though that wasn't even baggage, that came out of left field, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, I made sure I did the work so that way I can be happy in my next relationship. So when I did start dating with intention, I started dating because I wanted a husband. I knew that I did the work inside of myself. I knew that I did the work. Excuse me. I know that I did the work that I needed to do, however that looked for me. Okay, because it's not a one size fits all. Some people may need therapy. Some people need time. Some people need to be by themselves for a while. Excuse me. I'm sorry, my throat's getting dry. I get very passionate when I talk about different things, and I'm hoping that this didn't sound all over the place. It probably did. I mean, I know I say I'm a Gemini a lot, but they say we're flighty, but I tell you one thing, we're very good communicators, okay? So we're good communicators. So I'm communicating this to you. I know it sounds like I left out a lot of stuff. My story about my domestic violence, I'm sure looks different than others. I'm sure if you're going through this, it looks different from yours. But I hope that I'm able to give you some light or just share a story. Maybe it's just like, oh, that resonated with me because that's something that I have in common with Lee. Something that you have in common with me. And let you know that there can be light at the end of the tunnel. I am married, like I said before. If you watch any of my previous videos, I talk about, how I met my husband. I'm very happy. He makes me happy. I knew what I wanted. I was one of the women dating over 40. I was 45, I think, when we met. Whatever, something like that. However I was in my mid 40s when we met or whatever. So, and that's the first time being in a relationship. I could have been attracted to a man like him. I could have did that a long time ago, but I didn't do the work. I wasn't ready to receive that at that time. But everything I went through made me the woman that I am today. I had to go through a lot of shit. There's a lot of stuff that I did go through in my life. And I mean, one day I'll share some of those things, but the domestic violence, and that's something very big. And my other story about being a Jehovah's Witness and being shunned by my family, those are probably the two biggest things in my life that can have an effect on me. Especially with the relationship being abused, being in domestic violence, that didn't shape my relationships right now. It was what it was, but I didn't want to continue to attract someone like that. And I made sure that I was the person who I needed to be and felt deserving of having someone. Every day my husband always says, I don't know, I'm so lucky. How did I find you? And I'm thinking to myself, well, I attracted you, honey. Okay, I attracted you. Okay, you probably attracted me, but he didn't know. He didn't know about the law of attraction, but I did. I know I intentionally attracted that, but we attracted each other. I love him. I've never experienced love on this level where I feel that it's reciprocated. Like, he tells me he loves me multiple times a day, but that man can go by and not tell me he loved me, and I know it. I don't have to be like, I wonder if he loved me. You know what I'm saying? I know he does, and I feel the same way. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I am going to be coming out with more content. I do have 2 other channels. So I hope that, you guys will come back. Please comment below if you enjoyed this content. Share it with someone if you know someone can use it. If you have a story similar to mine and you want to share it in the comments as well, please feel free to comment that below. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for my old subscribers and for my new subscribers. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm sending you positive energy and lots of love. I love each and every one of y'all. Y'all have a good day.